Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be looking at some really innovative ways to grow food, focusing on agroforestry and edible landscapes.
That's delicious.
Yeah, we've got some great resources lined up for this. We've got some Wikipedia articles on agroforestry and permaculture,
Oh, yep.
and then a really cool piece on edible landscapes in Florida, and then an article about sustainable gardening for food production. And we know that you're really interested in, combating food scarcity.
Yeah.
And you want to find ways to produce food that's good for people and the planet. So I think this is going to be right up your alley.
I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah, me too. Let's jump right in.
When you talk about food scarcity, it's easy to get caught up in just needing to produce more food.
More, right.
Yeah, exactly. But what if it's not just about, working harder? What if it's about working smarter, too?
Right.
That's where agroforestry comes in.
Right, agroforestry. Now, the Wikipedia article defines this as a land use management system in which trees or shrubs are grown around or among crops or pasture land. But it's so much more than that. It's really about like mimicking the intelligence of nature, don't you think?
Absolutely. And it's not some new trendy concept either,
Right.
Agroforestry is, it's really deeply rooted in traditional knowledge, especially in the tropics.
Yeah.
Think about tropical home gardens.
Yeah.
These systems have been honed over, generations. They're so efficient.
Wow.
Imagine this. In just a tenth of an acre, you could have up to 25 different food-producing plants.
25.
Yeah, all in one little ecosystem. And that kind of diversity is key for resilience.
Right, especially as climate change makes traditional agriculture more unpredictable.
Exactly.
So it's not just about planting trees near crops. It's really about understanding the intricate
The
relationships,
synergy.
between different species.
Absolutely. It's about creating these symbiotic relationships where each element supports the others.
Uh-huh.
And that leads to a ton of benefits.
Yeah.
Not just for food production, but for the environment as a whole.
Absolutely. And the Wikipedia article lists so many benefits. It talks about improved soil health, water conservation, increased biodiversity, and even mitigating climate change.
It's amazing.
It's remarkable, really, how it addresses so many critical issues at the same time.
Yeah.
But what does this actually look like in practice?
Well, there are a lot of different types of agroforestry systems.
Okay.
Each one is kind of tailored to specific environments and needs,
Right.
Let's take hillside systems, for example.
Yeah.
There's a great illustration from Honduras where farmers are basically working with the contours of the land.
So they're planting on hillsides.
Yeah.
That seems pretty challenging.
It can be, but what's cool is how they use trees to their advantage.
Right.
So by carefully selecting trees and crops that work together, farmers can prevent erosion, improve soil fertility, and really create a self-sustaining ecosystem.
Wow.
It's a smart way to adapt to challenging terrain, but still produce food sustainably.
Yeah, it's about working with nature, not against it.
Exactly.
I'm also really intrigued by this example of Kuxtaquiloyan from Mexico,
Oh, yeah.
which means useful forest
I love that.
in an indigenous language. It's a perfect example of how traditional knowledge can be so incredibly valuable.
Absolutely. Kuxtaquiloyan really showcases the depth and wisdom of indigenous practices. This system, which is managed by communities in the Sierra Norte region, it isn't just about producing a variety of foods like avocados, mangoes, cinnamon.
Oh, wow.
It's about preserving biodiversity and cultural heritage.
It really challenges our modern notion that we always need new technology to solve problems.
Yeah,
Sometimes the answers are in looking back and learning from those who've been living sustainably for centuries.
for sure. Another example that highlights this blend of traditional wisdom and modern innovation is alley cropping.
Okay.
Specifically, the Inga alley cropping technique.
Well, yeah, the Wikipedia article mentioned that one. It's a sustainable alternative to slash and burn agriculture, right?
Right. It involves planting rows of Inga trees,
Okay.
which, they grow quickly and they fix nitrogen in the soil.
Mm-hmm.
And this creates a really fertile and protective environment for crops.
Wow.
So you don't need those harmful deforestation practices.
That's amazing.
And what I think is really inspiring is the story behind it.
Oh.
So there's this tropical ecologist named Mike Hands,
Okay.
and he witnessed the devastation of slash and burn agriculture firsthand. And it was like, you know what? There has to be a better way.
So he just decided to create a whole new system.
Well, it took years of research and experimentation.
Right.
But yes, his dedication led to the development of Inga alley cropping,
That's incredible.
which is now being used in places like Haiti and Cameroon.
Wow.
It just goes to show you, it's a testament to the power of individual passion and commitment to create positive change.
Absolutely. It's amazing how something as simple as planting trees can make such a big difference.
Yeah.
But let's bring this concept a little closer to home. You mentioned edible landscaping earlier,
Right.
which sounds like a fantastic way to, integrate food production into our everyday lives.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
I mean, the beauty of it is it combines like functionality with aesthetics.
Right.
So instead of having, just sterile lawns and purely ornamental plants, you can create a landscape that actually feeds you, supports biodiversity,
Right.
and it brings a little touch of nature right to your doorstep.
I love that idea. And it sounds like, this could be applied pretty much anywhere,
It can.
even in urban environments.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The Florida Edible Landscapes website highlights a couple of really inspiring examples,
Oh, cool.
like Hunter Park in Lansing, Michigan. It used to be this neglected area that was like, plagued by crime.
Oh, wow.
But a community initiative transformed it into this thriving edible landscape.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, with community garden, fruit trees, berry bushes. They even have like grapevine fences.
So it's not just about growing food, it's about transforming communities,
Right.
creating spaces where people actually feel connected and empowered.
Exactly.
That's great.
And it's not just, these huge projects.
Okay.
The website also shares the story of Rosalind Creasy,
Oh, yeah.
who is like a pioneer in edible landscaping.
Wow.
She replaced all of her traditional landscaping with edible plants.
So she basically turned her front yard into like an edible paradise.
Exactly. It just goes to show you sustainability can be beautiful and delicious.
I love that. I can't help but think about how much potential this has,
Yeah.
As more people become aware of where their food comes from and the impact that it has,
Right.
edible landscaping could really take off.
Yeah. And this leads us to the broader concept of permaculture,
Okay.
which really kind of encompasses both agroforestry and edible landscaping.
It's like the umbrella. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's this holistic design system that really emphasizes working with nature, not against it.
I like that.
Yeah. The Wikipedia article on permaculture describes it as a set of design principles centered on whole systems thinking,
Okay.
simulating or directly utilizing the patterns and resilient features observed in natural ecosystems.
It sounds a little complicated.
It can seem that way at first, but the core principles are like really simple.
Okay.
Care for the earth, care for people, and share fairly.
I like that a lot.
Yeah. It's about recognizing that everything is interconnected
Uh-huh.
and that we need to design systems that are sustainable, for the long term.
For long haul. Yeah. So how do these principles actually translate into practical techniques for growing food?
Well, one key concept is the idea of guilds.
Guild.
Yeah, guilds are like groups of plants that work together to support each other.
Oh, interesting.
So, for example, you might plant, nitrogen-fixing legumes near heavy feeders like corn or squash.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could combine plants that attract like beneficial insects with plants that repel pests.
Okay.
So you're kind of creating a natural system of pest control.
That reminds me of something I read in the Wikipedia article
Oh, yeah.
about mycorrhizal fungi and ladybugs.
Well, that's a good one.
Yeah, the fungi help the plants absorb nutrients while the ladybugs control aphids.
Exactly.
So they're part of the same guild?
Yeah, each one playing a crucial role.
They all work together.
It's like a beautiful illustration of how nature works in harmony.
Right.
And we can apply these principles to our own gardens.
So how do we do that?
Well, for example, sheet mulching.
Okay.
It's a technique that kind of mimics the natural processes of a forest floor.
Uh-huh.
And, it creates these ideal conditions for a thriving guild of plants, fungi, and microorganisms.
You mentioned sheet mulching before. It involves layering organic materials, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Like cardboard and leaves.
Yeah, you just put it right on top of the soil.
Wow, that's cool.
It's an amazing way to improve soil structure, suppress weeds, and retain moisture. It's a great example of working with nature to create a more, abundant and resilient garden.
Another technique mentioned in both the Wikipedia article and the Garden Lessons article is companion planting.
Yeah, companion planting is great.
which basically means planting different species together to, deter pests, improve pollination, and increase yields.
Exactly.
For instance, you could plant basil near tomatoes to help repel tomato hornworms.
That's a good one. It's a much more elegant and sustainable way to deal with pests.
Right, than just dousing everything in chemicals.
Right, exactly.
The Garden Lessons article also emphasizes the importance of water conservation.
Yeah, so important.
Especially through rainwater harvesting.
Rainwater harvesting is fantastic.
Which, it's a simple concept, but it can make a huge difference.
It really can.
Especially in areas that are, prone to drought.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Collecting that rainwater from your roof or other surfaces and then storing it to use in the garden later.
Right.
It's a fantastic way to reduce our reliance on, municipal water systems and just ensures that we've got a consistent supply of water for our plants.
So we've talked about agroforestry, edible landscaping, and permaculture.
Yeah.
They all seem to share this common thread of working with nature,
They do.
to create more sustainable and resilient food systems.
Yeah, absolutely. But we've been talking mostly about rural and suburban environments.
Right.
What about urban areas?
That's a great question. I imagine that's pretty challenging.
It can be.
Space is limited.
Yeah.
But the Wikipedia article on permaculture did mention urban permaculture as a growing movement.
It is.
Yeah.
It's about getting creative and finding ways to bring nature into our cities.
Right.
Even if it's just a balcony garden or a rooftop herb spiral.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
What other examples are there?
Well, there's this fascinating project in Detroit where they're transforming these vacant lots into urban farms and community gardens.
So they're providing fresh food and revitalizing neighborhoods.
Exactly.
It's a perfect example of how urban agriculture can address food insecurity, create jobs, build community.
Absolutely. And then there's the Beacon Food Forest in Seattle.
I've heard of that.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, isn't that a public food forest?
Yeah, it's 7 acres.
Wow.
Designed to provide free food for the community.
That's amazing. It's a model for how we can integrate food production into our cities.
In a way that benefits everyone?
Yeah, in a way that's accessible, sustainable.
Right.
It's inspiring to see all these concepts being applied in such innovative ways.
It is. And it reminds us that even in these really densely populated areas, we can still find ways to connect with nature and create more sustainable and resilient food systems.
It's incredible to think about, having these vibrant food-producing ecosystems right in the middle of our cities. It challenges that whole idea of cities being, these concrete jungles that are totally detached from nature.
I agree. And what's even more encouraging is that there's this growing awareness of the need for more sustainable food systems, both in urban and rural areas.
Absolutely.
The World Bank, for instance, has been highlighting the importance of addressing food price inflation.
Right.
Especially in low-income countries.
That makes sense. Stable food prices are crucial for making sure everyone has access to food.
Exactly.
But how can, sustainable gardening and agroforestry actually help with that?
Well, by increasing local food production, we can reduce our reliance on those expensive imports.
Right.
And create more resilient food systems that aren't as vulnerable to global market fluctuations.
So we're not all at the mercy of global supply chains.
Exactly. And agroforestry in particular has this huge potential to restore degraded land, combat deforestation, and create these more sustainable agricultural systems, especially in the tropics.
So it's like a win-win for people and the planet.
Exactly.
The Great Green Wall Initiative in Africa is a great example of that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a massive project that's aiming to plant a band of trees and shrubs across the entire width of Africa.
Wow.
Restoring that degraded land, creating jobs, and, just providing food and resources for those local communities.
It's a testament to the power of agroforestry.
It really is.
It's inspiring to see these large-scale projects happening. But I'm also wondering, what can individuals do? What can we do in our own lives to contribute to a more sustainable food system?
Yeah. The Garden Lessons article emphasizes that it's not just about the techniques.
Okay.
It's about a mindset shift.
Right. So it starts with changing our perspective.
Absolutely.
From seeing ourselves as separate from nature to recognizing that we're actually part of it.
Right. We are part of it.
And that our actions have consequences.
Big time.
Yeah. It's about taking responsibility for our impact. The article also talked about the importance of reducing waste, conserving water, and protecting biodiversity.
All essential pieces of the puzzle.
Hmm.
And remember, those core principles of permaculture that we talked about, earth care, people care, and fair share,
Yeah.
they can be applied to so many different aspects of our lives, not just gardening.
Right. So it's about living more sustainably in general.
Yeah.
But sometimes it feels overwhelming.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
there's just so much to do. Where do we even start?
I think the Wikipedia article on permaculture offers a really good starting point.
Okay.
It talks about the importance of observation and interaction.
Right.
It's about paying attention to the natural world around us, learning from its patterns and cycles, and then adapting our designs and practices based on what we see.
So instead of jumping in and trying to force things to happen, we should take some time to observe and understand our surroundings first.
Exactly. And the Garden Lessons article talks about observation too. Notice what plants thrive in your garden, what pests you're dealing with, how weather patterns affect your crops. It's about really becoming a student of nature.
I love that.
Yeah. And developing that deeper understanding of how everything's connected.
So beautifully put. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listener with a final thought-provoking question.
Okay.
What unique contributions can you make to the movement toward a more sustainable and just food system?
That's a good question.
Maybe you have a passion for gardening, or you're really good at design, or maybe you're a natural community organizer.
Yeah, maybe you're a teacher who can inspire kids to care for the planet, or an entrepreneur who can come up with innovative solutions for, sustainable food production.
Or maybe you just have this desire to make a difference. Whatever your skills and passions are, there's a place for you in this movement.
Absolutely. We encourage you to check out the resources we've linked in the show notes for more info and inspiration.
And remember, even small actions can have a ripple effect.
Yeah, starting a compost bin, planting some herbs on your windowsill, supporting your local farmers market.
Right.
These might seem like small things, but when everyone does them, it can lead to real change.
They add up.
They do.
Well, this deep dive has been so inspiring. I'm feeling really hopeful and empowered.
Me too. It's been great exploring these ideas with you.
Thanks for joining us on this journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep growing.